On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas carried out one of the deadliest attacks on Israel in the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, killing hundreds of civilians and taking hundreds more as hostages. The death toll has been estimated to be somewhere between 1,300 and 1,400. Israel have responded with airstrikes, ground attacks, and collective punishment on the people of Gaza. More than 25,000 people have been killed in Gaza within the last 3 months, and more than 10,000 of those killed were children. But despite these shocking statistics, much of the media has still backed Israel throughout.
The lack of support for Israel.
Surely the state of Israel has the right to defend itself.
It's a very strange type of genocide where the population actually increases.
We've come to Preston in Lancashire, famous for the UK's first ever KFC, birthplace of Wallace and Gromit creator Nick Park, home to the Preston model, and a city that in November of last year saw every one of its 20 mosques make a demand calling for the resignation of Sir Keir Starmer as leader of the Labour Party due to his lack of commitment to a ceasefire in Gaza. Almost 3 months on, and as tensions and the death toll in Gaza continue to rise, we're here to ask the people of Preston for their views on the war between Israel and Palestine and whether they believe those in power here in the UK are doing enough to try and resolve the conflict. What's your opinion on the conflict in Israel and Palestine?
I don't think it's okay to bomb children and women who can't help themselves.
It's so upsetting to see so many innocent, not even just people, but children as well. They've not even had the chance to live, and it's honestly just heartbreaking.
I think it's terrible, what's going on, and I don't think everybody really should have celebrated Christmas myself, because that's where Lord were born, wasn't it? So I just think it should be ceasefire and talk about it, and that's it.
The Labour Party leader advocates the nation of Israel, and the nation of Israel is destroying Muslim brothers and sisters in Palestine.
Well, obviously I think it's shocking, as with any genocide. And we're boycotting, aren't we? So big corporations like McDonald's and Starbucks, I won't order from. But innocent Israelis, innocent Palestinians, it's all tragic, the whole thing.
I think it's all wrong, really, definitely wrong, what's going on, especially the other night when they shot the young fella. It's all wrong, it really is.
Free Palestine.
Well, it's something that's been going on for hundreds of years, isn't it? Thousands of years even. Live and let live, for crying out loud. Leave our people alone and we'll leave your people alone. I feel for the Palestinians. They were kicked out to begin with, and that was our fault, I believe.
My overview is that although I could understand how Israel reacted initially, but I think it's going to the point, and I think it's got beyond the point, where the sympathy will be with them. I think it's now going to turn. It would do well for people to look at what happened in Ireland, where our government, maybe understandably, didn't seek a dialogue with the other side, with the IRA, with the Republicans, and it was 3,600 casualties later. They did get round the table and they worked something out which worked. I would rather see that happen at the beginning of the process than see it at the end, because eventually that will happen at some point in history. And they've lost, 25,000 people? Well, how many more?
According to the UN, 2 mothers are killed every hour in Gaza. We put this to some of those we spoke to, and this is what they had to say.
It's horrible, because not only are people losing their mums and stuff, it's not only that, it's the past trauma for that as well. It's not a good thing to see our Prime Minister not do anything about it, especially because recently they gave billions of pounds to Ukraine. Why can you not do the same for Palestine? Yet instead they're bombing Yemen, was it? And it's just not good. And this Prime Minister is just not it. Everybody knows. I don't know why we're not doing anything about it. We should all protest.
Really?
Yeah, how does that make you feel, hearing that?
Well, I'm doing a social work degree, so that breaks my heart, really. That's awful. And it's just, it's like humans, we're just so inhumane, I think. It's just tragic, and I don't know I'm not bright enough to know what we should do about it, but anything to stop it, I think.
Terrible. I'm upset. I'm sad. Every time you turn news on, it's war, and there's more going to come. And it just makes me feel upset, sad, and there's nothing to look forward to. And that's me. What about them? They've nothing. Their houses are blown up. They've nowhere to go to eat and nothing. It's terrible. Absolutely.
Very sad. It's awful. It really is. Being a mother myself, with 4 children, I couldn't think what they were going to go through.
I don't understand if there is words like that coming out, why is no one wanting to make a change? Why is everyone still silent about it? And fair enough, it's going around on social media, but at this point more should be getting done.
What more do you think the government could be doing to help end this conflict?
Well, obviously, first of all, the ceasefire. Obviously, Rishi Sunak said he either said no or abstained for a ceasefire. But yeah, honestly, I think there's a lot more that the UK government could be doing, but I think as a collective, as the public, we could do so much more.
What more do you think the British government could be doing to help?
So much more. Like, it's ridiculous how they're just putting it aside, and like, especially when you look at the news, like it's so biased. Like it's just like saying, oh yeah, Israel this, Israel that, like, but it never like shows the people of like Palestine. And I've seen so many interviewers like interview Palestine, like pro-Palestine people, and they just cut them off. They know the truth. They're just trying to hide it. And we can see it as well, especially like through social media. And people think that like spreading awareness isn't going to do much, but it is. Like so many people are aware, especially like the boycotting. Like I've got loads of my friends doing it as well. So it's good to see, progress, because it is working.
The government can go stuff themselves as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a fan of the government whatsoever. At the moment, we don't even know what we're doing for ourselves, let alone for others. I mean, no, we shouldn't be going in. We shouldn't be going into Yemen either. It's just ridiculous.
All we can do really is obviously send as much charity as we can for the aid in Gaza, and of course prayers, because I'm Muslim, praying and obviously boycotting certain companies as well, which is very important.
There was the whole thing about the ceasefire that didn't happen. It should have happened, and there's so much more that we could be doing instead of making them feel like it's just them alone, which is how they feel.
What more do you think the government could be doing to help bring this crisis to an end?
Just go in and help, and stop fighting, because they're people, aren't they? And it's not fair on them. It's really not fair. They've no life, have they? I mean, that shooting last night, that bloke with that white flag, and he got shot. So nobody's being protected at all.
I'm not so sure that they can do that much other than try and use their influence. We're still supposedly a respected country, and we should put forward our views and encourage others to follow a similar line, and to say, look, history tells us that these things don't work in this way.
We also spoke with local councillors to hear their views on the ongoing war in Gaza.
It's an absolute tragedy what's going on in Gaza at the moment and around that part of the world. To see the reports coming through every day of innocent people being killed on both sides of the conflict, it has to be said. And I think the sooner that we can bring that to an end, one way or another, has got to be a positive. And we can't deny there are going to be all sorts of challenges involved with that. Israel, of course, are absolutely determined to carry on with their campaign. On the other side of it, Hamas have shown no side that they want to stop the fighting either. And you've got all these innocent people caught in the middle, and it's just a tragedy, it really is.
Obviously, it's a disaster. It's a humanitarian disaster. No one comes out well out of war. And I think the tragedy of it is that both sides are using Israelis and Palestinians as their own little puppets, whether that's Netanyahu, whether that's Hamas, whether that's Putin, whether that's Iran. They are playing this geopolitics game while children are dying. And I think the sooner we get Israel and Palestine to a place where they realise that you can't murder your way to peace, the better the whole Middle East will be. I think it's difficult to pick. If you solidly pick one side, then how does the peace ever come about? And I think that's the problem you can be. If you say absolutely all the wrongs on one side or all the rights on one side, you'll never get peace. We saw that in Northern Ireland. You know, eventually you can't just win a war, you've got to win the peace that follows. And at the moment, I'm not sure the government knows what the end game to this conflict is. And if you don't know that, how will you ever get peace?
Many of our MPs have asserted that people don't care about international issues, insinuating that such concerns are reserved for radical protesters who attend so-called hate marches. However, they're wrong. The conflict in Gaza and the subsequent genocide of the Palestinians deeply affect people across this nation and around the world. At best, we have representatives who attempt to remain ambivalent by trying to both sides the issue. At worst, there is full-throttle support for the ethnic cleansing and slaughter of an entire community. There's no equivocation here. It's clear whose side we should stand on.
Being neutral, remaining neutral is more beneficial to the oppressors. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.